Yeesh. Oh God. Ooh. Hey, Sound, how's it going, man? How you doing? Would you invest in Poundland? With the markets as they are, Eridus, I don't think I would invest in anything at the moment. The brilliant and incredibly intelligent United States president has thrown all investments out the fucking window, so I don't trust anything for the moment. Hey, Milos, how's it going, man? All right, no worries, Eridus. Unhinged, how's it going, man? How you doing? Oh, that's the fuck. Oh. Not a fan of pissing away money? Hey, not until it comes to gacha games, okay? That's what it is. Oh, that's so bad. Oh, God. Since you didn't do it at the end of last stream, we can look at the art. Yes, sorry. Yeah. Wait, did you send any new art? What am I missing? Is it just Backland? Oh, no, no. Here it is. Here it is. Nope. Sorry. Forza Geo. Geo looks much prettier than normal here. Am I wrong in saying that? Geo looks like much like an elf. The tarot cards, we've seen this before. They're very, very nice. All of them. Miss Justices in particular, that looks beautiful. The sun, that looks amazing. I actually like, I like the sun's best. Hers second. His third. Alger's fourth. Like, this is still good, don't get me wrong. The others are just amazing. The Fool, this one's also very good. That sort of fadeaway mask thing, very cool. Who is this? Miss Sammer. Oh, the new landlord. I see. She looks very pretty. My God. Backland. My God, this place looks depressing as shit, doesn't it? Like, I mean, this looks better, but Jesus. This looks miserable. What the fuck? Oh, no, not there. Oh, no, 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 no. No, don't open right now, please. Thank you. Nope, nope, no, no, no. Okay. Coral doesn't work. Unhinged because C is unavailable. So Coral doesn't work. That was a great guess. You know, Unhinged, I've always respected you, man. You're a real intelligent guy. You know, all that sarcasm you put in the chat, it's obvious. You're very intelligent. Jeez. Incredible. Moral. Hey, nice. Is I doing? Yeah, I tried to do. I'm not even gonna bother with that. Fuck that. Alrighty. Alright, we'll try to get through to 225 today before I go to bed, but we'll play it by ear. If I start getting sleepy, holy shit! If I start getting sleepy earlier, we'll end a little early. We'll see. You're also a very intelligent person. Agree. Hi, hey, how's it going, man? How you doing? Attempt. Justice was instantly thrilled as she nodded, acting reserved and elegant. I'm very willing to cooperate. This was they were trying to figure out how Audrey was going to get the rainbow salamander, whatever organ she pituitary gland, to become a telepathist. Do a Sudoku quickly, dude. I can't. Sudoku would be. Well, it would take me a real long time. All right, so don't. Yeah, we're just gonna avoid that. Okay. The first time involved bringing her name and the Hanged Man into... as a spectator, she clearly remembered that Mr. Fool had only used the word attempt on two things. The first time involved bringing her and the Hanged Man into this mysterious space. The second was when we were given an honorary name so they could attempt to make a prayer, and the outcome was sufficiently successful, revealing his true nature. I always do Sudokus every night before bed. Oh, good man. What would it be this time? It really is something to look forward to. Audrey restrained her impatience and tried her best to behave as a qualified spectator. Attempt. Alder suddenly tensed up, viewing the Fool's proposal with the utmost wariness. What does he want to do? What is his true purpose? Is it good or bad for me? One by one, thoughts popped up in his mind. The rapidly rotting appearance of the Rear Admiral surfaced in Alder's mind. Finally, he lowered his head and said respectfully, "Your wish is my wish." Besides him, Derek looked at the Hanged Man, then at Justice, wondering why they were so sensitive to this so-called attempt. Klein lightly tapped his fingers on the edge of the long bronze table and smiled. This attempt will make your transaction easier and safer, and it will definitely be sufficiently confidential. He turned his head to the side and looked at the Hanged Man. He said with a moderate pace, "Do you remember the sacrificial ritual as described by the Sun?" Klein deliberately mentioned it to show how open he was. He made it difficult. It made it difficult for the members of the Tarot Club to imagine the sacrificial ceremony he was about to provide had actually first been obtained from the Sun, and that he had gone through all that time and effort back then to trick the Sun out of a template sacrificial ritual. I remember. I do come into contact with such things usually, Alder replied truthfully, but his heart was throbbing. Since the Orthodox gods rarely responded to similar rituals, the word sacrifice had been equated to evil gods and devils in the Fifth Epoch. Oh, no wonder Alder's so afraid. Thinking about how this could lead to a terrifying outcome, the Hanged Man felt as though he was walking at the edge of an abyss. If he wasn't careful, he would fall in, only to be eroded and devoured. Maybe it's time to pick up Clown and Bullseye's torch this stream. I don't get the reference. Yeah, you're good, Milos. I'm just gonna... Yeah, I read that. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't read it, though. Fool, how's it going, man? Sound. The chat, I think, went pretty good. Like, we had a pretty good time. I think we were, about 2 hours, or give or take. It was a pretty good time. We both got at some theories, discussed some stuff. Neither one was spoiled for anything. I think I technically spoiled Easy more than he spoiled me, which is hilarious. Klein followed his plan and didn't provide further explanations. He slightly nodded and said, "My idea is for you to sacrifice the Beyonder material to me through the ritual, and I'll bestow them to Miss Justice. A transaction like this will be beneficial to you both." That can be done? Audrey was instantly dumbfounded. She felt this exceeded the limits of her imagination. But she very quickly came to her senses and understood the advantages of this method and the true nature of a deity hidden behind the simple act. Mr. Fool is great. As expected, our tarot club will be different from other secret organizations. We'll use the method of deities to exchange for material goods and ingredients. Audrey almost said praise the lady in her mind out of habit, but in the end she said praise Mr. Fool instead. Alder turned even warier as he entered a state of calm thoughts. Honorable Mr. Fool, what do I need to do? Sadly, I've been busy doing choir and piano work. Oh, no worries, Fool. It was a great stream, man. It was like 5 hours. Yeah, it was a great time. Yeah, I mean, not for me at the time. Holy shit, I went through the entire spectrum of human emotion during that stream. It was wild. He tried to figure out the true purpose of the Fool from the process of the sacrificial ritual. Klein lightly pressed his right hand and said, like I said, this is only an attempt. It may not succeed, so it will need your cooperation. You didn't miss it. He skipped the last 2 chapters and said he'll go back to them tomorrow. Unhinged. He's seeing me read beyond the end of volume 1. What are you talking about? First of all, prepare an altar. There's no need to make it too complicated. It can be very simple and crude. The only requirement is to engrave or draw this symbol. As he spoke, a screen of light appeared in front of him. On it was the symbol of the hidden pupilless eye and the mysterious symbols of the partial contorted lines, the same as the back of the Fool's chair. Yeah, I said I'll go back. Oh, right, yeah. Silly me, I forgot. I skipped the last 2 chapters and then just continued reading onwards and just forgot about it. Totally sounds like a thing I'd do. After previous experiments without using materials with spirituality, Klein was certain that the sacrificial ceremony he designed could create an illusory gate above the gray fog, similar to the door opening. However, his strength alone couldn't construct a stable channel, so he could only use the uniqueness of the space above the gray fog to complete the ritual. They went good, Full. They went, thankfully all of them went pretty good. Thanks for asking, bud. I appreciate it. Yeah, they're all done. I'm so fucking glad to be over. Therefore, he was 90% confident that the ceremony would be successful. The only problem was if the ordinary passageway would be constructed using ordinary materials that contained spirituality, or did it need to be beyond our materials, as well as a sufficient number of them. I'll let Miss Justice and Mr. Hangman bear the cost of the experiment. In any case, they both knew from the very beginning that the Tarot Club was the product of an attempt. It can be foreseen that there are other attempts subsequently, and some failure is inevitable. Even deities are no exception. I doubt that. As the Hanged Man, Justice, and the Sun were attempting to memorize the symbol, Klein chuckled. If you forget you can pray to me, then you can remember. All right, Audrey replied happily. With Mr. Fool, rituals aren't tedious and troublesome, she happily thought. No worries, Milos, no worries, man. The Hanged Man nodded in response as Klein continued the description. Secondly, follow the normal procedure. There can be no need to burn any additional herbs or holy oil. There's no restriction on time, just chanting my name is enough. Remember, use ancient Hermes or Jotun to recite this piece of prayer. Your devoted servants pray for your attention. I pray for you to take his offering. I pray for you to open the gate to your kingdom. After you finish chanting, combine the materials that contain spirituality with the natural powers created by your incantation and await my response. Jesus Christ, Milos, yeah. Go to bed whenever you're sleepy, man. No worries. If you don't succeed in the step, change from materials containing spirituality to beyonder materials and try again from the beginning. Mushroom spam. After listening quietly to the procedure, Alder felt his previous guess was very likely to be the truth. The Fool was in a predicament. He was offering alluring attempts, making attempts one at a time, and planned to use himself, Justice, and the Sun to slowly break free of restrictions. In the end, he might even descend into the real world. Bro, you guys think Easy's theories are wild? It's It's the Hanged Man that's coming up with the wildest shit. What the fuck? There was also the true reason he initially pulled people into the mysterious space, agreeing to establish the Tarot Club. Even without his previous speculation, Alder believed that he would have come to the same conclusion after hearing of the experimental procedures required after the sacrificial altar, comparing it to Mr. Fool's previous attempts. The only thing that stumped him was the possession of a powerful adorer. Therefore, there was no need for him to have himself, Justice, and the Sun. His adorer could simply make similar attempts. Therefore, there must be secrets I don't know about yet. The attempts need to be sufficiently secretive, and perhaps his adorer is being watched by certain existences. Alder began to connect the dots. He's just making shit up. What the fuck? After Klein finished describing the ritual, he said in a low but gentle voice, "The sacrificial ritual needs to be a specific time. Mr. Hanged Man, when do you plan on making the attempt?" This was different from responding to a request which could have a delayed response. The stable passage created by the sacrificial altar could only exist for a very short period of time, so Klein had to wait above the grey fog ahead of time. The rainbow salamander's pituitary gland is the only Beyonder material I have with me for the time being. As for materials with spirituality, I do have quite a lot, Mr. Fool. Once the gathering ends, I'll immediately attempt the first scenario. If it fails, I'll seek out other materials. Once I obtain anything, I'll inform you by praying to confirm a time. Alder said he couldn't help but turned his gaze towards Miss Justice. Devil, how's it going, man? How did your exam go? I'm reading your messages, and I presume not great. Or maybe it has to do with something else. You okay? As a spectator, Audrey instantly understood what he meant. She answered without the slightest hesitation. "If any additional Beyonder materials are required, I'll compensate you afterwards." Well, I can't guarantee the specific type of item you would want, as expected of the wealthy Miss Justice. We have come to an agreement. He looked at Justice and said after some thought, "Once Mr. Hangman's attempts succeed, I'll inform you of the bestowment ceremony." It's over. Are you okay, Devil? Alright, Audrey was entirely confident in the Fool's abilities. After answering the question, a sudden thought struck her as she realized the exchange of money could also be done through this method. Of course, this was only if the attempt succeeds. I wonder if items without spirituality would work. I'll ask Mr. Fool again if the attempts succeed. Audrey's lips curled as she thought of a beautiful future. With the sacrifice and bestowment topic coming to an end, she deliberated for a few seconds before saying, "Mr. Fool, I found 2 ladies suitable for our tarot club. They're both Beyonders and have their own circle and resources in Backland. They're also able to keep a secret and have decent personalities. Are you willing to let them join the gathering?" Does Justice want to strengthen her faction within the tarot club? This was the most instinctual thought that Alder had. There's no one here who can't, well, I mean, other than me, there's no one here who even can censor you, Devil. And I didn't do it, obviously. The only one that can theoretically censor you would be Romero, and he's not here, so maybe, I don't know, maybe you put something that YouTube censored automatically? I don't know. Derek was very interested in this matter as he looked sideways at Mr. Fool, waiting in anticipation. Klein seems to be in a bit of a dilemma. Previously, he had imagined the members of the Tarot Club wouldn't know each other and would develop their own subordinates, forming a relatively tight and secretive organization. Maybe, Devil, I don't know. This way, even if a certain member was exposed, captured, or had their spirits channeled, it wouldn't have much of an impact on the Tarot Club. But Miss Justice's description just happened to hit his weak spot. He was hoping to find clues regarding the secret order in Lanavis by acquainting himself with Beyonders with different circles and resources in Backland. If it's done through Miss Justice, the person involved would eventually hold back. However, I'm not sure it's possible to pull them up above the grey fog by simply reciting my name. In order to maintain his image, Klein didn't think too much and instead procrastinated on it. It will require a certain amount of examination. Miss Justice, use a clandestine method that wouldn't expose yourself to let them know of my name to garner interest. When Audrey saw that her proposal was about to be accepted, she immediately responded in excitement. "Yes, Mr. Fool." After a few exchanges, the gathering came to an end. The Sun, the Hanged Man, and the Justice returned, while Klein remained in the grey fog, waiting for the sacrifice. Devil, what happened? Now you've got me curious. Come on. The Blue Avenger was like a leaf on the surface of the undulating waves of the Sonia Sea. At times it was raised high and others sometimes low from the ebbing of the waves, but there was no sign of it ever being at a risk of capsizing. So I guess that's Alger's boat. The Blue Avenger. That's a cool name. Alger Wilson stood in the captain's cabin, his back to the shelves of red and white wine, as he subconsciously paced around. Why the hell do you need to take computer science courses for a nanoscience degree? I assume the exam didn't go great, Devil? Finally, he gritted his teeth and returned to the mahogany desk with a grim expression. He removed the brass sextant and found a piece of paper and a pen. He leaned over to draw a complex, mysterious symbol given to him by Mr. Fool. With a seafarer's memory, Alger quickly completed the first step of the ritual. Then he opened his drawer and took out a candle. He set up the ritual according to the dualism principle and placed a candle above the symbol that was formed by the combination of the pupilless eye and the partial contorted lines. One candle was placed in the middle and represented the person making the sacrifice. After cleaning up all the items on the table, Alger condensed pure water into his palm and wiped the altar clean. He then used the silver dagger from the ceremony to create a ceiling wall that surrounded his desk. Whenever I'm upset, I punch trees. There seems... I would imagine there's a better way to process your feelings. Oh, that's awesome, Fool. If you don't mind, send just like an audio recording of you playing it. That'd be awesome. The exam was fine, but like the day before the exam, some of my assignments got wrongly flagged for AI. I'll try to appeal. Shit. Shit. That sucks. But if it's wrongly flagged, then you'll be okay, man. You'll be okay. Don't stress so much. I promise. The worst is never the worst. No, that's not my words. It's from the Bible. I know most of you aren't religious, but there's some good quotes in there. After doing all this, he used his spirituality to light up the two candles and retreated a few steps under the dim light. Taking a deep breath, Alger lowered his head and recited in ancient Hermes, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the grey fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. Your devoted servant prays for your attention. I pray for you to take his offering. I pray for you to open the gates to your kingdom." The ancient incantation reverberated within the wall of spirituality, stirring up spiraling gales as they swept forth with the force of nature. It was the oldest sacrificial language created by human beyonders, and it contained many mysteries itself. However, it lacked sufficient protection for the user. Bearing with the pain that was akin to having knives slicing across his skin, Alger took out a small dark brown glass bottle from his pocket, unscrewed the lid, and poured out a lot of sesame-shaped granules. These granules swirled around a metallic luster and exuded an indescribable sense of beauty. Alger scattered these granules into the wind. The gale grew stronger, but was no longer tempestuous. It was dyed in two separate colors, silver and black. As they continued to collide and mix, the two differently colored winds were infused into the candle that symbolized the fool, burgeoning and tearing open an illusory, ordinary-sized door. The surface was carved with the same symbol that Alger had drawn. At this moment, Klein witnessed the appearance of a hazy door behind his high-backed chair. He could feel the spirituality in the air that was rippling apart and stimulating the mysterious space. It seems to be working. Klein had a premonition and immediately spread out his spirituality, infusing it with upheavals and stimulation. Amidst the insubstantial sound, the blurry door slowly opened. As the captain's cabin, Alder suddenly saw in the captain cabin. That's why I was having trouble. Alder suddenly saw the illusory door, formed of wind and light, open. Behind it was a deep darkness formed with innumerable numbers of almost invisible shadows. They were lustrous splendors encompassing massive amounts of knowledge. Situated above them was the thick grey fog of the ancient palace overlooking the real world. Such a scene caused Alder to involuntarily tremble. It was deep fear and indescribable excitement. He hurriedly picked up the rainbow salamander pituitary gland that he had long prepared, held it with two hands, and with his head bowed, raised the palm-sized object, which was constantly changing in color and had a soft feel to the ridges of the illusory door. Alder's hands grew lighter, and sudden appearance and instant disappearance of a suction force. He saw the slight tingling sensation that the rainbow salamander gland gave him. He didn't dare raise his head until he heard a deep voice. "You did well." "It's my honor," Alder said without hesitation. He looked ahead again, only to see that the illusory door had disappeared. The gale stopped and the candle flames returned to their original size. After the candles were extinguished according to normal procedure, Alder sat down with a complicated expression. In the beginning, only people could be pulled up to the world above the grey fog. After a while, responses could be made. Now sacrifices can be endowed. Mr. Fool is freeing himself from his predicament one bit at a time. Will he enter the real world? This guess or conclusion frightened Alder or worried Alder. But he also seemed a bit delighted. At least I'm a member of the Tarot Club, one of the earliest members. In the majestic palace above the grey fog, Klein was playing with the pituitary gland of the rainbow salamander. Various colors were reflected on his face as they constantly changed colors. A slight tingling sensation came from his palm, and a strong sense of accomplishment filled his heart, causing him to reveal a genuine smile. In the future, the Tarot Club will become even more miraculous. After reflecting over the situation, Klein extended his spirituality and sent his will to the Crimson Star, representing Miss Justice. But the ex that cursed me was seated in front of me. Just a coincidence, devil. And this isn't Lord of the Mysteries. Coincidences do happen, and sometimes they don't have any meaning, man. After returning to her bedroom, Audrey was no longer able to sit quietly on the edge of the bed. She would restlessly flip through her books by her bed from time to time, scrutinizing herself in the mirror with an unfocused gaze. She was looking forward to the completion of the Hanged Man's ritual, but was also afraid that it would fail. Emperor Roselle had said that one must remain calm and collected when important matters arise. Audrey, come on, take a deep breath, or perhaps go tease the dog. But Susie can talk and think, so she's kind of her own entity with dignity. I can't just tease her. Audrey's mind wandered, her hand unconsciously ringing an ornate doll in splendid clothing. After an unknown period of time, a thick fog suddenly appeared before her eyes. There, and in the depths of the fog, there was a lofty chair. Sitting there, the fool said with a smile, "Miss Justice, the attempt was successful. Have you prepared the materials containing spirituality?" "That's great, as expected of Mr. Fool." Audrey forgot the Hanged Man's role in this matter. She held back her excitement and said, "Yes, I always have such materials with me." "Oh, hey, Yark, how's it going, man?" Klein nodded slightly. Audrey had been the same even before she joined the Tarot Club. Back then, she didn't know which materials could be considered to contain spirituality. She had merely moved them from the family treasury in accordance with the various essential oil formulas she had gathered. Klein nodded and said, "When do you plan on holding the ritual?" This is based on the premise that there are no Beyonders around you. Does a Beyonder dog count? I can do it now. Klein tersely acknowledged. The ritual process is the same I described before. All you need to do is exchange the prayer to your devoted servant prays for your attention. I pray for you to open the gates to your kingdom. I pray for you to give me strength. In addition to this, use the dualism method. Audrey thought it over, fought the urge to nod, and began preparing the ritual. When the illusory door opened, and a scene even more illusory than the starry sky appeared. Audrey felt intoxicated in both body and mind. This is the mysterious world I've always been pursuing. This is the kind of feeling I've always wanted. She praised Mr. Fool wholeheartedly. It's the faith towards the goddess. But for Mr. Fool, it's worship, Audrey silently explained. Interesting. Soon after, she was stunned to see that there was something on the altar. It was a soft object with lustrous colors and filled with ridges, the rainbow salamander's pituitary gland. Her eyes lit up as she had the urge to grab it. However, her customs of etiquette took hold as she sincerely praised Mr. Fool again. Crouching tiger, hidden dragon. All right. After finishing the ritual, she impatiently walked back and forth, carefully examining the Beyonder material 5 times. Our tarot club is at a higher level than all the other organizations. Audrey secretly felt smug. She then glanced at the door, as if afraid of Susie's intrusion. Dude, if Susie took 8 from Audrey, that would be fucking hilarious. Susie becomes a high-level Beyonder. She had to redouble her efforts and immediately concoct a potion to complete her advancement. A few minutes later, she held a bottle of liquid that contained constantly changing lusters that could shine to the bottom of everyone's heart. She confidently drank the telepathist formula and successfully tied through the integration stage with the Beyonder characteristics, achieving an advancement. The view of her seemed to clear up significantly. With such a great increase in other aspects, Audrey familiarly used cogitation to restrain her dissipating spirituality. Late foreshadowing. After her sequence stabilized, she smiled and walked briskly to the door, letting in her golden retriever. She saw the obvious suspicion on Susie's face. You took far longer than usual. Audrey sat down on the ottoman and dryly laughed. Susie, tell me, how should I tell Miss Gio and Miss Forres about the particular matter without revealing myself, yet get them interested? Before she finished, Audrey began to seriously ponder over the mission Mr. Fool assigned. Then at that moment, Susie looked back at her. The human and the dog both fell deep into thought at the same moment. Okay, in fairness, most people have never gotten anything back from gods, right? If you logically think about it, they're not Beyonders, so they don't really hear anything from the gods. But you see a living, walking, talking dog? How much more could you want from that? Really? I feel like a lot of people would jump board on that to that church. I agree. After completing his goal, Klein returned to reality, slept a little more than an hour before hurrying at the door. He spent £1 to buy gold-rimmed glasses, wigs, and a variety of mustaches that could be torn off and stuck on with adhesives. They were disguises he would need later. What the fuck? Before dinner, he made a trip to the East Borough, the most crowded area and the most unsafe. He rented a 1-bedroom house at the rent of 4 solai, 3 pence a week. He paid 2 weeks' rent and a deposit, coming up to 17 solai. Only then did Klein complete all of his early preparation. East Borough had also left a deep impression on him. Most of the streets were similar to Tingin's Lower Street, but the area that shared the trait was many times larger. It's kind of cool to think that, miserable to think that if Magos's baby was born here, or was, conceived here, I guess, with the much larger, depressive nature and stuff, it would probably have fucking been way worse here. It might have even exploded. It's kind of wild. The clothes of the residents here were old but decent. Many of them were dressed in shabby clothes and sallow skin and thin frames. It was as though they would turn into beasts at any moment due to their poverty or hunger. Therefore, gangs ran rampant in East Borough. When he got back to Cherwood Borough, Klein felt as though he had entered heaven from hell. The next 2 days, he experimented with using his spirituality to perform rituals and creating charms. He no longer prayed to the goddess and waited for the effects of his tiny advertisement to bear fruit. On Thursday, Klein finally heard a doorbell. Ooh, we've got a customer. Honey, get the tea out. Cool. Ding dong, a rope was tugged, causing the doorbell and the sound it made to constantly tinkle as it and send its sound echoing through the spacious and relatively empty living room. Klein, who was seated on the sofa reading a newspaper to study the various investment opportunities, stood up. He was wearing a white shirt and black vest without a bow tie. Just like what one would hear at home. You feel a caffeine crash coming? Yeah, me too, Devil. Sleepy as fuck. Jeez. Alright. I've had like 5 large black coffee. Oh, Jesus. I've had, I think, 3 cups of coffee and tea. So this is rough. My first job in my career as a detective, but I can't always be home waiting for missions like this. I need to hang a notice on the door along with a fountain pen so my clients can write down the time of their next visit and allow me to prepare in advance. However, a new detective in this profession without any fame, doing so would basically be the same as not having a next time. I can only go through the trouble of performing a divination in the morning to see if I would receive any jobs for the day. If so, what time to make plans. Of course, it's possible I would miss out on missions from powerful beyonders. Well, so be it. It may be a good thing after all. Yeah. Fool, I don't know. I couldn't get through a day without it, dude. I don't know how you do. He walked to the door and without looking through the peephole, the image of the visitors outside appeared in his mind. One of them was an old lady in a black plush hat. Her back was slightly hunched and her face was deeply wrinkled. Her skin was shriveled and sallow, but her dark dress was very formal and neat. Her temples were completely white and her blue eyes were quite lively. She was looking at the young man beside her, gesturing for him to pull the doorbell again. The young man was in his 20s with eyes similar to that of the ladies. In a progressively cold weather, he wore a black double-breasted coat, a top hat, and a bow tie like he was about to attend a banquet. It was as if he wouldn't relax his demands of himself at any moment. Wait, fool, you haven't had any soda either? So, like, what do you drink? Just water? With the help of the clown's premonition, Klein turned the handle, opened the door, and greeted his visitors with a smile before the bell could ring again. Good morning, madam. Sir, what a wonderful day it is. At least, up to the point that I have already seen the sun for 5 minutes. He spoke of the weather in a slightly exaggerated manner, small talk that had been popular in Backland for more than a century. Yes, it's always shy and doesn't come out behind the fog and dark clouds. By her side, the lad said, Are you Detective Sherlock Moriarty? Yes. And what may I help you with? I'm sorry. Please, come in. Let's talk. No, there's no need. I don't want to waste your time. My poor Brody is still waiting for me to save it, the old lady said. It? Klein noticed. The very formal-dressed young man nodded and said, Brody's a cat owned by my grandmother, Madame Doris. He went missing last night, and we hope you can find him. We live at the end of the street. I'm willing to pay you 5 solai for it. Of course, if you can prove that you spent more time and effort than that, I'll make it up to you. Find a cat? That's what you're entrusting me with? Because of the convenience of stemming how we live on the same street? It makes me feel like a clown. Well, I can't turn down my first business deal. That's a Sears point of view. Can you describe it in detail? Granny Doris spoke out before the young man could open his mouth. Brody is lovely. Lively black cat. It's very healthy and has beautiful green eyes. Loves to eat cooked chicken breast. Goddess. Last night he just ran off like that. No, it must have gotten lost. I've placed a lot of chicken breast in its bowl, but it refuses to return to take a look. Klein's lips curved up and said, I'm very satisfied with your description, Mrs. Doris. I accept this request. All right, go to your home now. I need to search for clues and find trails. That should be clear. You should be clear that the basis of my reasoning lies in the details. Oh, cat is a gym, bro, because of the chicken breast. I see. Cute. Mrs. Doris didn't consider her grandson as she nodded and said, You're the most proactive detective I've ever seen. It's a deal. Klein put on his coat and hat, picked up his cane, and followed Madame Doris and her grandson out onto the street. Unlike Tingen, roads in Backland had been built with cement and asphalt. Even during a downpour, the roads were less muddy. I'm a thigh guy? Interesting. Thick thighs save lives. Couldn't agree more. While the old lady was leading the way, her grandson came close to Klein and said, I hope you'll do your best to find Brody. It's been one of the pillars of my grandmother's life ever since my grandfather and parents passed away. After Brody went missing, something went wrong with my grandmother's mind, so much so she started hearing things. She keeps telling me she can hear poor Brody mewing miserably. Oh my god, Brody's even mewing? He's a fucking alpha male, dude. What the fuck? I'll do my best. Right. I still haven't gotten your name. Jurgen Cooper, a senior solicitor. Oh, he's a lawyer. Is he a Beyonder lawyer? Oh, checkmate. We're still talking about chicken. This is Brody's bowl. This is his favorite box. He always sleeps here. Well, I fucking doubt it since he hasn't been here. Klein squatted down and found several strands of black cat fur in the box. He straightened up and gripped his silver inlaid cane with the hand that held the cat's fur. Gotta agree about those stuff. Klein's gaze turned deep as he pretended to observe his surroundings as he silently recited a divination statement. His hand secretly slipped from the end of the cane and didn't leave it completely. It made it difficult for Jurgen or Doris to notice that the cane was standing on its own. Soon after, the black inlaid cane tilted to the side. It fell very, very slowly and with very little movement. Brody's awesome. Klein gripped the cane again, looked in that direction, observed it for more than 10 seconds. Then he strode over to an old cupboard. Any signs of Brody running away? Jurgen asked. Without answering, Klein kneeled and pulled open the door at the bottom of the cupboard. Meow. A cat darted out, tail high, and ran for its bowl. Brody, when did you get into the cupboard? How did you get locked in there? Doris cried. How did you know it was in the cupboard? Jurgen turned his head and looked at Klein. Klein smiled and replied, Inference, my good man. After obtaining the 5 solai reward from Doris and Jurgen, as well as their friendship, Klein returned to 15 Minsk Street under the gloomy weather. Before he even got close, do a Catboy cosplay? No, I can't. Before he even got close, he saw a figure loitering in front of his door. More business. Devil, if I do that, I'm never gonna get like. I was gonna say like alpha male sponsors, but I don't know what alpha male sponsors are. Are they ever sponsored? What the fuck? I don't know. Before he even got close, he saw a figure loitering in front of his door. More business? When Klein looked over, he saw the visitor was a boy, 15 or 16. Oh, the one from the train. It's him. Klein immediately recognized the boy that he had met on the train. Back then he was being pursued, but his maturity and calmness at the time had left quite an impression. What would he want to entrust me with? Excuse me? Are you looking for me? The boy was startled as he turned around. Are you Detective Moriarty? Yes, Klein looked around. Let's talk inside. All right, the boy didn't refuse. Inside, Klein didn't take off his coat, but did take off his hat and put his cane away. Please, have a seat. How may I address you? What job do you have for me? You can call me Ian, the boy surveyed his surroundings for a few seconds and fell silent. I was previously hired by another detective, Mr. Zuriel Victor Lee, who helped me gather some news and information. Does the job have anything to do with your former employer? Yes. A few days ago, I suddenly found myself being followed by someone with ill intentions. Therefore, I thought of a way to lose their tail. I believe you saw this yourself, Mr. Moriarty. I recognized you as the man who was sizing me up on the metro the day the day I saw you. This level of observation isn't any worse than a spectator. Could he be born with an ability, or is he a beyonder? Klein activated his spirit vision, but didn't find anything strange. Your response left an impression on me, he replied. Ian didn't harp on the topic and continued. I suspect that my encounter has something to do with Mr. Zuriel. So I went to visit him at his place. I found his place seemingly normal, but there were some hints that someone had infiltrated and triggered all the tiny mechanisms. I haven't seen Mr. Zuriel since that day. I suspect something has happened to him. I tried to call for help, but his disappearance period has yet to reach the required number of days to make the request. By the way, I don't know if anyone knows this or still believes this, but like that whole, oh, you need to wait 24 hours before someone's missing before you can file a report is a fucking lie. You can report them instantly if you feel something's off. I tried to get help from all the other detectives I knew, but they all turned me down on the grounds that they had just met Mr. Zuriel at a fellow detective party. That surprised me because I didn't receive any request from Mr. Zuriel when I contacted him using the agreed-upon method. I still stood by my judgment and intended to ask for the help of a detective who Mr. Zuriel doesn't know. Well, as much as that meant it would be someone I don't know either. I had no idea who to look for. Therefore, I could only search the newspaper and end up finding you, Mr. Moriarty. 2 more chapters. All right. That's a good question. What's considered? How's everyone doing this fine? What is it? Wednesday afternoon? Fuck, I don't even know my days anymore. Wild. You wouldn't believe it. Once you graduate, none of it even fucking matters. That's not true. Most people get jobs after this. Trisemantle? What is this? Dude, I can barely fucking get Wordle. Oh, I see. Your job is to... Okay, hold on. Your job is to guess a secret word. Each guess must be a single word. Semantle will inform you how semantically similar your word is to the secret word. Unlike other words, the game's not about spelling, it's about meaning. We calculate this using AI. Each word has a measure semantic distance from another, indicating their level of relatedness. Once you get within 1,000 words of the secret word, we'll tell you in the proximity column. You have unlimited guesses. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. World. No. Hold on. Okay, so this means like a really bad guess, I guess. Okay. That's also a horrid guess, I guess. Oh, that's so bad. What the fuck? Dude, I'm gonna be doing this forever. Okay, hold on. Negative. Can I ask for a hint? What? What is this? What am I witnessing? I don't know how to do this. So I'm at the 1,000th nearest word because I'm at like 26. What is this? Oh my god. That's point .9. Holy shit. Okay. Dude, I could have spent an eternity. Wouldn't have even gotten there. Klein asked, after carefully listening, so you suspect Mr. Zariel was, whom the detective saw was in disguise, was someone in disguise? It's a possibility, but I think it's too difficult due to the risks involved. The party was at night, and it's true that the lights weren't very bright, but most of the people attending are detectives with keen observational skills. Just a wig and a beard and some cosmetics could hardly hide from their eyes. Perhaps some Beyonder powers can do it, like how the creeping hunger enables such an ability. This was a little trap in Klein's question. He wished to determine from the boy's answer if he had ever come into contact with Beyonders. The initial answer was no. When Ian saw Detective Moriarty nodding slightly in agreement with his reasoning, he continued, I believe that the detective saw Mr. Zariel, but he wasn't free. He was in a controlled state in which he couldn't send out distress signals. The reason why he wasn't responding to my attempts was to liaison with him was probably to signal me that he needs help. Good lord. A reasonable explanation. I'd like to entrust you with the task of investigating Mr. Zariel and determine his current condition. All I need is confirmation. Then how much are you going to pay? You must be aware that that this might be dangerous. There are two ways. The first, I can directly give you a payment that's enough to satisfy you, regardless of whether the mission is simple or difficult. That'll be all unless you suffer a relatively serious injury. Second, I could pay you £5 in advance, and when you finish, you can add on to the bill depending on the difficulty of the matter. But it's easy to cause a dispute even if there's a contract. Why don't we do it this way? You can pay me £5 in advance and help me with 3 things after the mission is completed. Don't worry. There won't be anything difficult. They'll be within your capabilities and nothing to make you uncomfortable. This can be agreed upon in the contract. All right. Klein stood up, pulled a standard contract that he had prepared, picked up a round fountain pen, added the details that he had discussed, and stamped it with his fingerprint. After discussing the contract, he gave the teenage boy a stack of papers and watched him write Detective Zariel's relevant information. How can I contact you if there's an emergency or I've confirmed Mr. Zariel's condition? You don't need to contact me. I will appear at the right time. Without another word, he took out a thick stack of cash from the pocket of his old coat. They seemed to be stacked up in a very neat order, from high value to low value. Ian pulled out a £3 note and counted 6 5 solai notes and finally a 10 solai note. When Klein saw that Ian had neatly arranged the notes with the portraits of the former kings facing up without mistake, he was slightly flustered. Is this some late-stage OCD? According to his visual estimate, Ian had less than £3 left. He probably had all his savings with him. If I asked for more, would he bail on me without paying? He doesn't look like the kind of person to do so, but one shouldn't judge one by a book by its cover. Good lord. Fun fact, did you know there's a multiplayer Wordle? Oh. Interesting. I think I've seen something similar, but interesting. But I can't remember the name. But the one I remember was like, it wasn't one word. It was like you have to keep guessing words in one person until one person just doesn't get one, and there's like a timer that's running out. But it was only for 2 people, I guess, so multiplayer it wouldn't be. I'll try to complete the investigation as soon as possible. Thank you for your help. Watching the boy, who was more mature than his age, leave, Klein stroked his chin and silently said, "This matter goes deeper than it seems." Ian didn't mention anything about Mr. Zuriel's recent investigation or what information he's been instructed to gather. Forget it. I'll handle it as much as the money's worth. All I need to do is confirm Zeal's current condition. He turned around and walked back to his living room. While doing so, he fished out a quarter pence out of his pocket. As the copper coin tumbled in the air, Klein's eyes turned dark as if he muttered if there were any beyonder elements in the case he was handling. Then he opened his right hand and tried to catch the copper penny, but the coin slipped from his fingertips and fell to the ground. This meant that the result of the divination had failed. From the looks of it, Ian had withheld more things than I knew. The information is so lacking I can't even get a vague divination result. That night, in the wee hours of the morning, at 138 Rose Street, Backland, Klein changed into his cheap light blue workman's uniform, his mouth, chin, and cheeks covered with a black beard that at first glance made him look rough and savage. He wore a dark-colored cap and pressed it so low that it nearly covered his eyes. Such low caps were originally from the Intas Republic hunters. There were certain differences from the traditional deer hunting caps of the Lone Kingdom. However, such caps had become popular with the working class of Backland. Hiding in the shadows of an Intas parasol tree by the side of the road, Klein studied the house across the street with an aid of an elegant gas lamp. It was Zuriel's home. The detective was from Southville. Southville? Isn't that the place where Klein got all of his coffee? His parents, relatives, and friends were all there. He had come to Backland alone, where he slowly forged himself a name. He was still a bachelor and had only hired 2 temporary maids, the kind that came every 3 days to clean up the place. At the moment, the terrace house was still rented was pitch dark. He took off the silver chain and let the topaz hang. There's danger inside. After repeating it 7 times, he opened his eyes and saw the pendulum spinning clockwise. Slow, but very slowly. There's danger, but nothing serious. Klein muttered, once again confirmed that he had tarot cards, self-made charms, and the holy night powder on him. After doing all this, he looked around, took advantage of the stillness of the night, and nimbly crossed the street. There were no verandas, gardens, or lawns, as it directly faced the edge of the street. Klein went around to the side and easily climbed up the water pipe to the side of to the small balcony on the 2nd floor, where clothes were hung out to dry. Immediately following that, he took out a tarot card and slid it through the crack, opening the door to the corridor. Following Ian's drawing of the house layout, Klein walked almost soundlessly to Zuriel's bedroom. He lightly tapped his left molar and activated his spirit vision, and looked inside through the door. His spirit vision could see colors through obstacles without spirituality. However, it was highly dependent on one's ability. Currently, Klein could observe through wooden doors but was stumped at concrete walls. Furthermore, the scenes he could see weren't too clear. do. Um. Yes. Wait, where's that? In his vision, he saw 3 humanoid auras in the bedroom behind the door. Whoa, threesome. Whoa. The colors were blurry and were located in different locations. There were 3 people lying in ambush. Is it to capture Ian or someone else? The bedroom isn't that big. At that moment, he suddenly retreated towards the balcony while keeping his footsteps light. Back at the balcony, he took out a silver slice from his pocket. There was a slumber charm that he had created in an attempt during the afternoon. He didn't pray to the goddess, but to himself. He held a ritual in his name before entering the world above the grey fog to respond. I'm not reading the same fucking incantation I've read 800 times. Since this method was difficult to mobilize the power of the mysterious space above the grey fog, Klein could only use his own spirituality to respond. The charms that he made in the end were worse than normal, but better than the ones he made in his own name. After surveying his surroundings again, Klein covered his mouth and whispered in the word for ancient Hermes, Crimson. Feeling the chill of the charm, he moved quickly but silently to Zuriel's bedroom door again. He held the handle and injected spirituality into the thin silver slice. Klein carefully twisted the handle and opened a small crack in the door. After that, he threw in the slumber charm, pulling back his arm. He closed the door again. 3, 2, 1. He abruptly opened the door and rolled to the ground. Not sensing any movement from the 3 people, Klein stood up and used the crimson moonlight shining through the window and began observing the room. It was a normal bedroom with a bed, a row of closets, a desk, a set of sofa, and a coat rack. On the other side, a man in a black coat was sleeping soundly. In addition, there was another by the side of the sofa and another in front of the closet, all asleep. God, I am so sleepy. Fuck. After confirming the trio's condition, Klein walked over to the bed and bent down to find a few short brownish hair. According to what Ian had wrote, Detective Zuriel was a short man with was a man with short yellowish brown hair. That should be right. He grabbed a few of the strands of hair and sat down on the sofa. He slowly sat by the darkness tainted by the crimson light and planned on using dream divination to find Zuriel. Leaning back against the sofa, the corners of his mouth curled up in a self-deprecating comment. Deduction, my good man. You're doing 0 deduction here, bro. You're doing divinations. Hardly the same. Metaphysics-styled detective. My God, I've only been live for an hour? Jeez. One, 2, 3. My God. 4 chapters in an hour? That's impressive. With a little bit of stalling involved. Did Wordle, tried to fuck around with this thing. Good stuff. All right. I think we're just gonna leave it here. Because I am super fucking sleepy. Jesus. Yeah, I think we'll do this. We'll just leave this at the end of this chapter, okay? The dim room was covered in a thin veil of crimson moonlight, and everything was indistinct. The 3 men in the black coats, were sleeping in different spots, and on the sofa, Klein's eyes half blended into the darkness by closing them. It was as if he had entered a deep slumber. His dream was a grey, distorted world, occasionally flashing with brilliance. Finally, the brilliance settled to form a scene. It was a gloomy corner, the ground sloshed with sewage. A man with short brown hair, a white shirt, a brown vest was leaning against the wall, surrounded by a dense mischief of grey rats. Half of the man's lips had been bitten off, revealing his yellowish teeth and rotten gums. His nose was only stained with blood, and some of the short hairs and the flesh of the face had disappeared, piece by piece, revealing white bone. White, fat maggots were crawling everywhere, constantly squirming, and his throat seemed to have been the victim of some Wild beast, at least half of it was missing. So Zarila's fucking dead, huh? Your pace keeps increasing? Well, that's good. Yeah, because like 5 chapters at the start took me 2 fucking hours. So not only can I read for way longer, I'm also reading way faster. Not, again, still like damn near or still, maybe not, but like a lot slower than if I was just reading in my head, but like a lot faster than I used to. This is great. Yeah, this will come in handy for when I take a 2-week-long hiatus in a little bit. Klein could barely make out that this was Zariel. It was nearly impossible to relate him to the mature and handsome man in the black and white photograph he had taken with Ian. Zariel was already dead. In a few days, he would probably be gnawed to the point where he would only be bone. He might not even have a complete skeleton left. His past experiences had allowed him to witness similar corpses more calmly. Looking out of a window at the crimson moon, Klein thought for more than 10 seconds and decided to try communicating with the soul of a man in black next to the sofa. In the last few days of preparation, he had concocted a bottle of Amantha extract and an Eye of Spirit medication. For a Serenity agent, Klein had no need for it. He was personally capable of invading the dreams of others and forcibly communicating with their souls while maintaining calm and rationale. Well, staying calm and rational is probably what it means to say. After setting up a simple altar and letting the quiet and tranquil fragrance waft to create a half-dreaming state, Klein prayed to himself. The fool that doesn't belong to this era. After that, he entered the world above the grey fog and used 2/3 of his spirituality to give a response. When I advance to sequence 7, such prayers should allow me to use a little more power of the space above the grey fog, like my summoning and bestowment rituals. Looking around, he made a quick judgment and returned to the real world. He passed through what seemed like a starry sky and chaotic storm of dreams, entering the mental state of the target. There, he saw the man's illusory figure floating in midair. Who sent you to Zariel's home? Klein looked at him in a deep voice. The man replied in a haze. Merso. Merso sent me to wait for the boy named Ian. The light in the spirit world changed, revealing a lean, capable looking dark-skinned man. He was none other than the leader of the group who was chasing Ian on the steam train. Who ordered Mirza? No idea. He's the executioner of the Zmanger gang. No one can order him other than the boss. Zmanger, the word warrior in the language of the Highlanders. A pseudo-historian, Klein, but a true mysticism scholar, felt a sharp pain in his head as his body involuntarily flew out of the storm of thoughts. Not long after, he exited his mediumship and felt his head throbbing. He was in no hurry to leave. He methodically picked up the materials and the short yellowish-brown hair before opening and the oriel window to let in the cold night wind, disperse the smell of the Amantha extract and the Eye of Spirit medication. All good, Devil? While this happened, Klein returned to the balcony, locked the door from the inside, and wiped off all the places he had touched. When Zariel's bedroom returned to the original state, he held his hand to his chest and bowed down towards the 3 men who were still sleeping soundly. Straightening his back, Klein put on his gloves and leaped nimbly out of the oriel window. He stood firmly, tiptoeing in the abnormally tight space. He raised open the window's vertical latch and used the tarot card to hold its bottom. With his clown abilities, he took in detail and adjusted his balance. After a few seconds, Klein slowly pulled back the tarot card and the vertical latch suddenly stopped in place and didn't fall further. First, he closed the unlatched half of the window, then jumped over to the window with a latch. His right hand jerked inward, closing the other half of the window. The speed of the action was so quick that the latch didn't fall down until there was a vibration, accurately inserting itself into the matching hole. A sound that was difficult to eliminate rang out, like a strong wind slamming onto the surface of the glass. Klein knew that the three men in the bedroom were about to awaken. Without further ado, he jumped onto the street. For the current him, the height from the second floor wouldn't pose any danger. It was just that he couldn't maintain his silence when he landed, so he didn't make any obvious noises. Klein quickly left the vicinity as well as Rose Street, but he didn't directly take a carriage back to Cherwood Borough's Mint Street. He turned a few corners and headed to the neighbouring Eastborough. It was a cold night, and the wind sent a biting chill to his bones. Klein shivered and decided he would need an additional sweater for his future missions. He decided to buy charcoal on one of the following days and let the fireplace carry out its role. After an unknown period of time, he entered Backlands Eastborough despite not having a map. He had completely relied on instinct. There were a few gas lamps to be seen in the distance. If it wasn't for the fact that dark clouds hadn't covered the crimson moon, Klein believed that many parts of the road would be pitch black. As he was walking, he suddenly saw a pair of eyes appear in the darkness in front of him. They came stooping in from a distance. They sauntered over from a vague distance away in silence. Living corpses? Klein suddenly came to a halt. He reached for his Requiem charm and tarot cards and quickly activated his spirit vision. He saw the unhealthy and weak-colored auras as the faces of the numerous figures. They were all living, normal people with numbed expressions, vacant eyes, and weak movements. Both men and women. It's almost midnight. Why are they still walking the streets? Klein, confused, wearily leaned to the side, passing the group on the sidewalk, but soon he came to a second wave, a third wave. All of them had the same pain amidst numbness. He frowned slightly. Just as he was about to move forward to inquire, he suddenly heard a shout ahead. "Get up, all of you, you sons of bitches. The streets and parks aren't for people like you." Klein was startled. Then the corresponding term poor law popped in his head. He knew what was going on. He experienced it himself. Klein mistaking homeless people for zombies. I've never mistaken homeless people for zombies. I have absolutely confused methed out homeless people for zombies. But that was more because they were the methed out than the homeless, okay? I'm not classist. I'm merely an elitist. Klein exhaled, picking up the pace, and headed for his one-bedroom apartment in the East Borough. There he slept for 2 hours. After recovering some of his spirituality, he went out again, broke a withered branch to serve as a dowsing rod, the location of Zariel's corpse. After repeating the divination, Klein walked for a long time with the help of a short yellowish-brown hair until he arrived at the corner of the East Borough where there was a sewer entrance. 12 years ago, after the Great Plague, the Lone Kingdom gradually built up an advanced sewer system in the capital and in one fell swoop surpassed Roselle's heritage of the Intas Republic. I've been mistaken for a homeless man before. Jesus Christ, there's still more to go. I thought I was close. Moving the manhole cover out of the way, Klein held his breath and climbed down the vertical metal stairs. Since his clothes weren't specially made, he was unable to bring out too many items due to the lack of pockets. He hadn't brought Quelaag's oil, which he had learned about from Fry. Klein felt especially regretful for not having brought the refreshing and odor-dispelling Quelaag's oil. 10 seconds later, he felt his feet touched the sticky ground. The feeling of filth caused fine goosebumps to pop up all over his body. However, he could only endure it and continue walking, venturing deep into the empty and quiet sewers. There was a fork in the road ahead, which was relatively hidden. A thick, pungent smell wafted from over there. Klein turned around and walked to the end where he saw a dense number of spirituality dots and color auras. Without needing to use a candle, he activated his spirit vision and directly saw that in the dark corner there was a rotting corpse that had been bitten to pieces, the same as the one he saw in his divination. The densely packed grey rats scampered in every direction, but there was some who stayed where they were, unwilling to part with their food. After confirming it was Zariel, Klein hesitated for a moment before quickly putting up a mediumship ritual. If there's nothing wrong with Ian's description, then he died only a few days ago. I should be able to get some information by channeling his spirit. As the wind whirled around him, a wall of spirituality was set up. All the rats fled, and Klein proceeded with his ritual as he had done before, the cause of his death. As he recited the words, Klein's eyes turned back, his pupils and the whites of his eyes disappeared. He quickly used cogitation to enter a dream. However, nothing appeared in that illusory world. Klein opened his eyes, frowning slightly. The channeling failed. Someone dealt with Zariel's spirit. A Beyonder was involved in this. The fact that someone was able to disguise as Zariel, making other detectives unable to see through him, also proves the point. After some deliberation, Klein came to a decision. It was to end this matter here and not get further involved. Regardless, he filled his requirements of his job he was trusted with. I'll get Ian to call the cops. Look at that. 5 chapters in an hour 20? 80 minutes for 5 chapters? 16 minutes a chapter? That's got to be a new personal record. I don't think I've ever done it that fast before. I think those 2 or 3 days off really helped. Really think so. Oh man, that was good. Alrighty. Me and Red doing Samantha on Discord. That's good. Yeah, fuck it. That's a long chapter. Fuck it. All right. I think we'll leave it there, guys. Next stream in like 12 hours. For fuck's sakes, Jesus Christ, this is my life now, I guess. All right. Yeah. Once again, thank you everyone for a fantastic stream. Hope you have a great rest of your day or nights, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Thank you so much, everyone.